Today, I am super excited to welcome Amber Lyn to the Dad's Making a Difference podcast. Amber is an award-winning singer-songwriter and author. And for nearly a decade, Amber has been sharing her journey of resilience, working to overcome childhood trauma, breaking through self-limiting beliefs, and building a life grounded in creativity and personal growth. And today, she's going to share with us her song, A Girl's First Love, a song that Amber wrote to share a powerful story about a father-daughter relationship and overcoming scars of abandonment. Amber joins us today to talk about her story and give us insights as fathers on how we can show up, create healing, love, and connection with our girls. This episode of the Dad's Making a Difference podcast with Amber Lyn starts right now. Amber Lyn, welcome to the Dad's Making a Difference podcast. Great to see you today.
Cam, so good to see you too.
I'm excited for this conversation because it's not often that I get to bring someone on who wants to have a conversation about their story. People just want to I want to share my story and I want to push it out there and tell everybody about my thing. And that's not you.
Yeah.
You and I got to connect on a pre-call about a month ago, and it was fantastic. I already got pulled into your story. So we're going to dive into your story, but why
Yeah.
don't we start about who are you
Okay.
and why are you here? Like people hear Amber Lyn on the Dad's Making a Difference podcast. Like why? So yeah,
Yeah,
introduce
exactly.
yourself.
Well, for one, I'm excited to be with another dad who's passionate about his kids and family. Coming from someone that wasn't raised with a dad, it's so nice to see that in you. And I know we talked a little bit on the pre-call too about just your passion behind that, which I hope your listeners will get to hear some of that today too. As I ask you some questions too, and I'm
Yeah,
curious.
absolutely.
But yeah, my name's Amber Lyn. I tell people I'm kind of an accidental artist. Like I didn't know I could sing or even write songs. I didn't grow up in an environment where I was really seen or for my talents and gifts. I didn't know. So my dad left when I was young. My mom did the best she could as a single parent, but she had her own struggles and limitations. So I grew up, just feeling a bit unseen and not supported. So it wasn't until in my 20s, I had a couple dreams where for the first time in my life, I experienced what it would have been like to be loved by a dad. And I didn't know what I missed out on until after I had those dreams. So you grow up in an environment where you don't have a dad, you just don't know the difference. That's all you know. So those dreams really opened or revealed, I should say, a wound of abandonment I didn't know I had. And I tell a lot of people, I wrote in a lot of ways to save my life to deal with that pain. And out came a song called A Girl's First Love. And the song, I swore to myself I'd never share it with anybody. I remember sitting in my bedroom. My kids were really young at the time too. And I would be alone while they were taking a nap or something. I'd be working on this song and the chords and things like that. The lyrics came to me really quickly, but it was a healing experience for me. I just remember lots of tears coming down my face when I would write it. And I've never experienced that before with music, with my own music. I have experienced that with other people's songs for sure, where you have those experiences. And so, yeah, I swore myself I'd never share it. It was a gift to me. I really felt like it was a healing force. And flash forward to maybe 3 months later, I got invited to a conference, and you're supposed to bring a song. They're teaching you how to write music, basically, write songs and things like that. You're supposed to bring a song. I didn't have the recording, and so I just brought my guitar and asked them if I could play it live in front of the class. So the teachers weren't just people who just written songs, which I think is great. There's a lot of writers out there, but these are number one hit writers. For some of in the music industry, some of them have won Grammys. They've really worked at their craft and had some success at it. Okay, so
No
great
pressure.
sources to learn from. Yeah, no pressure, right. I was definitely nervous. So I asked them if I could play it live, and it was interesting, though. Before I asked them, when it came to my turn, I heard everybody else's recordings, and I noticed a theme with all of them. Because this conference was a little bit more like Christian-centered, there's a lot of sort of worship music and about like things that they believe in and their passions, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I just thought, oh my gosh, like the song that I brought is not that. So I was already feeling and doubting myself with feeling this pull to bring this song, that maybe I did something wrong after hearing all these songs, and that I was hearing the judges' feedback. And so long story short, they said I could play it live, and so I stood up and I played it. And after I played the song, you could literally hear just like a pen drop. And I thought, okay, now I really did something wrong. Usually there's something, some kind of applaud or whatever of support, but everyone was quiet. And one of the judges stood up and in her sweet Southern accent says, y'all are copying each other. This right here, this is authenticity. So they ended up giving me an award of songwriting and excellence for the song. They all voted for it and asked me to play for the entire conference. My song, I'd never done an open mic before, never really been in front of a microphone to sing, let alone a big, huge stage with lights and a huge crowd in front of me. So it was really kind of terrifying, but also I was really grateful for the opportunity to get on that stage. I shared a little bit about what I'm sharing with you about the dreams and my process with it. And what was really interesting is after I played the song, I knew I'd have some people come up to me who have been abandoned, whether it be daughters or even sons. They've been abandoned too. What I didn't expect was literally a line of dads who came up to me, gave me side hugs, told me that my song inspired them to want to have better relationships. Still makes me emotional. Relationships with their kids, and some of those dads were the speakers at the events. They were the musicians, and they said, I'm really thinking maybe I need to find a career where I'm not gone so much. Maybe I need to be more in my daughter's life. So it was mind-blowing for me. Like, I had the contrast in my dream of what a loving dad was like, but then I'm seeing it like face to face with these amazing men like loving on me and saying that my song is inspiring them to want to be better dads to their kids. And I just thought, full circle redemption there. Like, it can't make this stuff up, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, what was that like for you when you're put in that spot? You have these dads coming up to you and you reflect on your upbringing, what that looked like, and you really didn't know what it felt like to interact with a father, with a dad, and here are these guys coming to you talking about raising their own kids. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just felt inspired and like hopeful. Like, there are really caring men like you, Cam, and that are passionate about being dads and passionate about their family. And that to me was just so encouraging to see that. But as a survivor who grew up not having that, it did trigger some loss for me of like, dang, like I really did. I feel like I kind of missed out on that. And I've done a lot of healing work like around around that wound. But I do kind of still walk with a limp. I mean, I think that you're forever changed not having that. I have a hole, I would say I have mostly a scar now, but it's still a scar that you see and it does affect me. But also a lot of people know that I can empathize with them who've been abandoned by a parent. So it's like there's a positive to that also. Where I have more empathy for those that they're orphans like me, don't have parents in their lives. Yeah, or didn't.
Yeah. How old were you when you said your dad left when you were young?
Yeah, I don't know the exact age. I want to say like around 4 or 5, maybe
Okay.
5 or 6, because I remember him a little bit. And I actually ended up writing a short book around the stories. One of what I just told you, also a chapter about the dreams, a little more vivid, explaining about that. And then I go into detail about meeting my dad for the first time. And I met him when I was in my 20s.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of crazy, that experience. I wish it was like this great positive experience, but when you're dealing with an addict or someone who struggles with addiction, probably be a better way of putting that, there's no chance of a relationship there. But I did feel like I got my closure said what I needed to say, and how I found him was crazy. And there's a whole story. I'm sure if we had another hour, I could tell you all that. But yeah.
So you're quite young. You said like 4 or 5, 6, somewhere in there. You go through growing up with mom. Um, did you ever like feel like, well, I'm really missing out, or were you just like, no, it's my mom's raising us. Life is okay. Here we go. Like, what were the indicators as you grew where you're like, I'm missing something?
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I think as kids we always yearn for our parents.
Mm,
Even if they're dysfunctional or if they're not around, you just want your parents. So I think there's always this yearning inside of me to want a dad to, some of the lyrics in my song are to have him tuck me in at night, like things like that. That was some of the vivid imagery I had in the dream was those moments that I missed out on. And what it was like to be loved by a healthy male. Like I didn't even know what it was like to feel a man's hand growing up or anything like that. So I didn't have that contrast. So yeah, I definitely felt sad a lot of the times, and I wish I could say that growing up with my mom was just really great. It was kind of chaotic. You're growing
mhm.
up single income household. You're moving around a lot. It's dysfunctional, and it's a lot of times it's scary. It's just a lot. You're always afraid. Like you don't know what's going to happen next. When's the next meal? I mean, that's kind of the environment that I grew up in. It's kind of crazy and dysfunctional. So yeah, it wasn't until those dreams that I really was like, oh, I
Yeah.
really missed out. Okay.
Tell us about that. Tell us about the dreams. Like, when did this happen? How old were you? Like, this is a fascinating thing for me right now because I after we spoke last time, I left my office here and I
Mm-hmm.
went for a walk. I just like I was going for a walk, had my dog with me, and I was thinking about the importance of like the things that we dream and what they mean to us because you had shared a little bit with me. I'm like, this is
Mm-hmm.
fascinating that this story came out of a dream, which
Yeah.
through
Two dreams.
history, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
two dreams, which
Uh-huh.
through history, people would have called those visions, right? And so, like,
Mm.
is it a dream or is it a vision or like what is it? I'm fascinated by this, Amberlyn. So
I don't know.
how old were you when you had those dreams?
My son was about like a year old or something, so I was in my mid 20s. Yeah.
Okay. You
Yeah.
just
What
woke
about do you dream? Like do you have vivid dreams? Like there's
I
dreams and then there's
in
the vivid
general,
dreams where you
yeah.
like really experience and you wake up like what the heck just happened?
Yes, absolutely. I've had, actually dream often, which I think at 44 apparently is a rarity. Like I ask people at work, I'm like, hey, did you have a dream last night? And they're like, no, I haven't dreamed in a long time. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting because there's
Mm-hmm.
the, do you have a dream? Like, are you dreaming of or do you have dreams? Right.
Right.
And I just love the little bit of that surface level of, do you have dreams? And I do. I'll tell you, some of the most vivid dreams I've had have involved my wife and kids. Positive dreams where my kids are older and I'm there and I feel like I'm just like observing them from a distance and these like really weird situations.
Hmm.
But yeah, I do. But I've never had the experience where I've woken up and been like, wow, that's something. Like I need to follow through on that,
Hmm.
which I think in your case is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I definitely experienced some pain.
Mhm.
I've woken up from dreams before with, just tears down my face. So, and it's interesting because I talk to a lot of females, and this does happen, think, more often for females than it does males for
Mhm.
some reason. So, to even hear that you have dreams and that you remember them, I'm a little like surprised. Most guys are like, no, I don't
Yeah.
dream. I don't, or maybe if I do, I don't remember them, you
Yeah.
know.
And my
Yeah,
wife
that's
Kim could
cool.
speak to this. She would be like, we'll go for walks and we'll have our time together. My kids are 12 and 10. And so they're fine. If we leave them, we go for a walk. And I said, I gotta tell you what happened in my dream last night. And I'll like explain it like it's a story. And she's like, are you making this up? Or is this actually what happened like 17 hours ago? I'm like, no, seriously. What do you
Yeah.
think it means? She's like, I don't
Mhm.
know. She's
Yeah.
like, yeah, but yeah, those vivid dreams they're quite something. And so with the dreams, so did they happen like back to back? Was it over time? Did you wake up and you said you're emotional, there's pain, there's hurt? Did you just like start writing down? How did you remember this? How did you put them together?
Yeah, I remember having the dreams pretty back to back. And then the writing, I don't know, I feel like the chorus is what just like came to me. So the writing process is very interesting. I love talking to other songwriters because it varies. And it varies per song. Per person it's different, per song it's different. I feel like this one, the chorus, which for daddies are supposed to be a girl's first love, yet that's something many of us girls are dreaming of.
Mm.
That was what I heard. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that was me. And so when inspiration hits as an artist, and you may know this too, you have to like get it down, like jot it down as soon as you can, because once it comes out, it's gone. So it's got to land somewhere. And so I just remember writing that. And I feel like the verses sort of came like later on as I was processing more about the dreams. And then I met with a friend of mine who is a English teacher. He's a retired high school English teacher. He was the first like guy that I shared the song with before I went to the conference. And I said, "Look, I have this song. I want to play for you, but it's very vulnerable, and I'd love to hear your thoughts." And so I played it for him, the verses and the chorus that I had so far, and he again was like also really quiet afterwards, and he said, "Amber, that's really incredible." He said, "But I'd really love for you to get deeper." Like, and so there's this last line of the song where I'm literally talking to my dad. And it says, for instead of daddies are supposed to be girls' first love, yet that's something many of us girls dreaming of. I actually sing for daddy, you were supposed to be this girl's first love, yet that's something I'm still dreaming of. And I thought that line still gets me sometimes when I play it on stages and with people. I don't usually know what's going to happen. I feel like now I've gone through quite a bit of healing. It doesn't get me choked up as much, but it does still creep up, and it causes that emotion to come up because I'm speaking right to him. So I gotta give props to my friend Ken, who he's one of the three men I dedicated my book to, for helping me get even more deeper. I like hate him, but like love him for that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing the growth that we can have from being uncomfortable, though.
Yeah,
When
I
you're put in that
agree.
uncomfortable position and Ken challenged you to do that, how it
Sure.
kind of freed you up a little bit.
Well, and also now inspiring other people.
Yeah.
It's them and places. I mean, I've had all kinds of people come up to me after I play, and from men to women to dads to sons to it all affects them in different ways. And so that always just blows my mind. Power of music, right? And
Yeah.
authentic sharing in that way.
Yeah. I love that. When you write the song, you're getting your own story out, you're getting that pain out, that sharing out. And as an artist, I'm sure there's like this piece that you want to convey, that you want to share out there. That's important to you. But now that you've got songs out there and it's in the world and people are hearing it and dads are hearing it, what now down the road do you hope that men get from hearing that song? What are the messages in it that you hope land with the dad of that little girl?
Great question. Yeah, I at the end of my book I do kind of write a message to the dads that have abandoned their kids, and I think one of the things to the ones that have and feel a lot of shame about that, I just want to encourage you that it's never too late,
Mm.
and that I would have at any point in my life would have loved for my dad to have called and apologized or wanted to reconnect. Like that, I can't even think of a stage in my life that I wouldn't have wanted that. From a little girl to a teen to in my 20s to even today, if he was still alive, like I would still want that. So if anything, just encouraging dads, it's never too late. I mean, obviously you can't make up for that lost time, but you can start now. Yeah.
And what about for like I have a little girl at home. I got a 12-year-old daughter
Mm-hmm.
and I have a son who's I love equally. And they try to get me, Dad, who's your favorite? No, I love you both equally.
Who's your favorite?
Yeah, they'll ask me that, but it's
Depending
okay.
on
I'll
the
say
day.
that's funny you say that because I did. Now I'll just say, well, who's your favorite? I'm like, what day? Like what time? But
Yeah.
but right now I have a daughter who's in my house, who's on the brink of becoming a teenager and going through lots of changes in her life. Uh, but I think about your song, and as a dad who is at home with his daughter, there's still something to be learned and something to be taken away. And so, what's your hope for the guys who are raising little girls right now? What do they get out of it? And knowing that they are home and they are present, but there is always this feeling as a dad right now where I'm always like, I can bring something more.
Yeah. Man, that's a hard one because to me, I just want to validate the fact that you're there. I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many dads out there, Cam, that aren't just showing up and being there and being present for their kids. I think that we tend to underestimate the value of just being there and just being with and listening to her talk about, whatever, even if the story is way longer than it needs to be, I'm sure at times with the girl. But and listening to her and validating her, like, that just goes so far. So if anything, I mean, resting in that what you're doing is enough. The fact that you're just showing up every day, and now you're doing a podcast to help inspire other dads. Now you have a daughter on that's been abandoned, and you're hoping it'll encourage them. Like, you are doing a lot. And I think that the dads who are in their kids' lives tend to struggle with seeing if that's enough. And it is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's good. So if you're listening to this right now, guys, you're doing enough. It's okay to want to improve, and it's called Dad's Making a Difference, but you are making a difference by being there, by being present, and by caring.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
don't beat yourself up so much, but know that you're there, and that's a good place to be.
So true. And you're setting up an example for her of what like a caring man looks like, just by being present and validating, giving her that hug when the tears, come down, not trying to fix it. You don't have to fix her situation, but just being with her, it teaches her so much. I wish I would have had known that. I had to learn that the hard way, not having that
Yeah.
contrast.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I want to ask you a question about parenthood. Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Because you mentioned you had kids of your own. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many do you have?
So I have two. Our kids are similar in age. Mine's 11 and 13.
Okay.
So
So two years
girls
apart as well.
11,
Yeah.
boys 13. Uh-huh.
Amazing. What have you taken with you as a parent that, we all take pieces of our own story into our parenting journey?
Hmm.
What pieces of your story have you brought with you into your parenting journey, and which ones have you left out?
Pieces of my parenting journey. I feel like I've been a bit of the cycle breaker in my
Mm,
family. Um, my relationship with my kids, I call it like relational parenting. I have shared with them my story. And I know some parents are hesitant about doing that, especially if it's kind of messy. But I can tell you right now that my kids knowing my story has been really good for them. And so they always want to know more and tell me about like what that was like for you, mom, and I'm so grateful for you and things like that. So I think I bring my story, and it's a place of like it's like bringing my scar, like here's my scar, and this is you're telling the story behind the scar, like how it happened, right?
right.
Not the open wound, because the open wound,
Yes.
I didn't. That's like bleeding all over them, and that's not something. It's not their job to patch that up or band-aid that up. That's our job as adults it's to heal, even though we didn't cause that wound. It's our job to heal, right? So I think just sharing my story and being really open about that, and then listening to them and their story and their struggles and validating their realities and why I get it. Like, hey, I've been there. Like, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
What about you on that one?
Yeah, that's a good question. I find that with my daughter, I will share more. I think, my wife is just like, you just shared a lot about your upbringing that I didn't think you would tell your daughter. Um, who's 12, Cam. She's 12. And I'm like, yeah, but I think it's important for her to know where her dad came from
Yes.
and the things that have happened in my life and in my family's life and some of the trauma, and not trauma dumping on her, but
Ooh.
sharing it in a way that shows her this is why our family is the way our family is, and why we care about each other, and why presence with each other is important, and why I ask you these questions to check in with you, and why I lay next to you in your bed at night and ask you questions about your day. Like, there's there's a reason for why we do things, Maya. Her name's Maya. I said, Maya, there's a
Mm.
reason that your dad does things. And you need to know that I'll always be honest with you. My daughter's
Mm.
pretty active. And so I'll share with you a little side note story. This is
Yeah.
just recently. 2 weeks ago, she's a competitive climber, bouldering, lead climbing, crazy stuff. I can't do it. It's heights scare me,
Hmm.
and bouldering kills my arms. But she is very good at this. And she had a competition 2 weeks ago, and they do these competitions, and they're pretty intense, and there's a lot of pressure, and a lot of people watching. And she had a rough day. She I would say she probably feels like she underperformed based on her ability, and she didn't make finals, and this was devastating because top 8 girls make finals, and she didn't make it. And she came home, and I had my own beliefs why the day went the way it did as I observed her and watched her during the day. And that we can't interact while she's doing it. Like we can watch and cheer for her,
Wow.
but you can't like have conversations. And at the end of the day, she was just like laying on her bed, just completely dejected, like face down. And she wasn't crying, but she just was so disappointed,
Defeated. Yeah. Felt
defeated.
feeling defeated. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know how like a teenage girl, preteen girl could be. She's like, I don't even know why I do this anymore. I'm getting worse. I just need to stop, that type of stuff.
Mm.
Um, I'm like, how do you feel that the day went? She's like, I'm disappointed. I'm like, yeah, I can see that your emotion is disappointment, but you've been thinking about this quite a bit for the last couple hours. How do you feel outside of disappointment? Like, tell me about the day. Can you remember, like, go through your climbs with me? What were you thinking? What would you do? Like, a mistake is an opportunity to learn. And so instead of seeing a mistake and being like, oh, I made a mistake, be like, oh, there's that mistake. I've done that before. Here's what I learned
Hmm.
from it. And so, like, this whole like sports psychology type piece. But just as a dad, like, tell me about your day, Mom. And she's like,
Hmm.
why don't you tell me about my day? And she's like, I said, well, I think you did well. I think you worked hard. You always say that. And I said, you didn't let me finish. Like, I think you worked hard, but your dad's going to be honest with you. She said, yeah. And then I told her, I think you worked hard when you were climbing, but you took too long of gaps. I think you lost your mojo. So flashing a climb is like when you go from the bottom to the top on your
Wow.
first try, and it's the
Mm.
highest score you can get. And
Mm.
then for every attempt, the score goes down. I said, you flashed your first 3 climbs and you were rolling, and then you didn't climb and you waited in line at a different route for 35 minutes and you lost it. And you split off from your teammates
Mm.
you were all encouraging each other. And I know that's part of the strategy, but you did it so soon in the competition, which was a 2.5 hour climbing window. You did it so soon that you isolated yourself from that feeling of team and support. And there's
Mm.
times where you need the team and support until you're ready to like move on and try something new. And you did it too quick. And you
Mhm.
sat on the sidelines and you watched and you psyched yourself out. And then you tried another climb. You fell off the first time and you waited another 15 minutes and you just lost it.
Mm.
And she's like, that did happen. I don't know why I waited so long. I said, and so you go through that. But
Yeah.
so at the end of that whole conversation, that was an hour. We went through a lot of stuff. And I said, Maya, here's what you need to know about your dad. I made a lot of mistakes when I was growing up as a kid, as a teenager, as a young man. And now as a dad, I make mistakes. But here's what we can learn from the things that we go through, no matter if they're disappointing or they're exciting, is that in that disappointment, there's always something to learn from so that the next time it comes around, not saying we're always going to be successful, but we'll know how to go through it and we'll know
Mm.
how to handle it and we can prepare for it and we can reflect on it. And here's a little bit of some of the, and then of course she asks, well, what happened to you? Like, what did you do? And so, yeah. And so then I'll share some of that. My son is 10. He's not ready. my son is, my son is the, uh, Dad, did you see my goal? Dad, did you see my save? He plays soccer and then he plays hockey and he's doing basketball now. And I'll be like, yeah, buddy, like, how did you get there? Well, I don't know. I just kicked the ball and they went in. So he's not ready. But for the like little bit deeper stuff, but at his
Yeah.
readiness level, I'll share some stuff with him. And
Yeah, I've noticed that about my kids too, the need to reframe what failure is and, success and
yeah,
just it is they are I mean it's such a hard age, 12,
yeah,
13, 14. Oh my gosh. I remember being a girl at that age. It's rough and you're already so insecure because you're around all these other, kids your or teens your age and it's like all of a sudden your eyes are like open and you're
yeah.
seeing everyone else and you're comparing yourself.
Oh,
So
yeah.
the insecurity level is already so high. So I find myself validating my kids a lot and just reminding them like of their qualities, both physically but emotionally. And I think the validation really goes a long ways too, and it helps them have that confidence to explore, well, what could have like gone wrong here, instead of shaming themselves, which,
Right.
we all do that at times. So
Yeah, we all do that
yeah,
at
it's a
times for
hard,
sure.
tough age, but you sound like you guys had a great like memory and moment there together.
Yeah, I think it was good. Like she hasn't come back to me and being like, Dad, that was life changing. But
Yeah.
there's,
Yeah.
for me going through this conversation, I think that's a healthy thing to do as a parent. And
Hmm.
maybe there's something fun there, a nugget that she'll take from that conversation. I know I
Yeah.
learned from it. So
Mhm.
hopefully that she does too.
Well, and coming from a girl who had to go through that stuff by myself, like I was in my room alone with those thoughts of like, feeling down on myself and not good enough. So just to have someone come into her room and be there and be like, "Oh, you're feeling disappointed. I'm sorry to hear that." Of course, but here's also what I see if you're open to hearing about it. I mean, to me, I'm like, I never even had that. I was just by myself, like all the
Yeah.
time. So, again, Cam, just showing up and being there, that's amazing. Like, she will remember that moment.
I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And
Yeah.
I think that's affirmation too for the guys listening to this who feel like, I'm working hard. I'm gone most of the day. Maybe I do some stuff at night. And I'm not there enough for my kids, but I know that they're there. And I know that they're there every moment that they can be there. Because
Yeah.
sometimes life changes, situations change. Some people have more time than others. But as long as the time that you have, you're making it meaningful, that's a good place to start.
Well, yeah, and then like you said, you're present. You're
Hmm.
there, and I think that the present time, no matter how long it is way better than the obligation. Like I got to do this and be with
Right.
them. Kids feel whether or not you're with them or not and present, even if it's an hour, but then you're gone the next day because you're working X amount of hours. They're gonna remember that hour. And I wish I would have had at least a couple of those hours, like
Yeah.
I wonder where I would be today. I think about that all the time, having that support and validation from a dad. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've done well and you've put yourself in a pretty good position now to impact guys and moms too, and in being there and in your own family too. And so I haven't done this before, and I'm kind of doing this on the fly to you. And I'm going to have you play the song if you're okay
Let's
with
do it.
that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so if you're listening to this right now, this is the part of the podcast where we're going to cut and go to the live recording of the song, and then we'll come back.
To have known what it felt like to hold me. never cared. No, 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 'cause you were never there. Oh, you never cared. No, 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 no. For daddy, you were supposed to be this girl's first love, love, love. Yeah, that's something this girl still dreams of, dreams of, dreams of. Oh.
Okay, so now we're back. And that's the first time we've ever played a song on the Dad's Making a Difference podcast. And so uh, thank you for doing that. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's powerful for guys to hear. I know there's guys who are going to hit the 30-second, 30-second, 30-second back on the podcast app they're listening to and listen to it again. And so thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Amber Lyn, I'm interested right now. You got so much on the go. You know, you have the song, there's the book, and we'll share about that in a couple minutes. But for you, as you continue to grow as a mother and as a professional, as an artist, what's an area right now in your life, an area of growth that you're excited about or diving into?
Um, Area of growth. You know, I've really done a lot of, like I said, work around working through the pain, like healing the wounds, right? It's like, it feels like walking through a buzzsaw sometimes. And I'm grateful for that. And I think it's productive pain. Like, I'm glad that's why I'm here today and able to like share. But I really think my next level of growth is fun and enjoying life and not living through like a trauma lens of all this pain and stuff, because now I have all these like healed scars. I want to enjoy. I want to enjoy my kids more. I want to get out and have fun things and get on some more stages and share my story and enjoy these kind of interactions with people like you and hear other people's stories. Like that's where I'm at. That's my I'm ready. Like, let's go. That's my new motto right now. Like, let's go.
I'm ready. Let's do this.
I'm ready. Yeah. Let's do this. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Amber Lyn, if there's a guy listening to this right now who wants to download your song, hear your song, so they have it at the ready, or read your book, where can they learn more about you and get your song so they can have it with them?
Sure. So amberlynspeaks.com is my website, and Lyn is spelled with one N. So if you're doing the double N, you might have a hard time finding me, but amberlynspeaks.com. And on there is pretty much everything. The book, there's the lyric video of the song. But if you just want to look up the song, it's on many, like Spotify, any streaming service under Amber Lyn, and it's called A Girl's First Love.
First love. Amber Lyn, thank you. Thank you for doing this. Appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's not often that we get to hear someone's story and then hear it through song. And just thank you. Wish you all the best as you move forward in spreading your message.
Thank you for having me, Cam. Appreciate it. And thanks for sharing some of your story. It's inspiring too.
Of course.